Good evening, artificial intelligence scientists, scholar practitioner leaders, SPLs. Welcome to our week 7. And I'm very happy starting off this week, guys, because everybody submitted all of their week 6 assignments from this past week 6. So, congratulations, everybody. Everybody truly did a tremendous job. And that makes your professor, Dr. Mark, very, very ecstatic. So, good job, good job, good job, everyone. So, with that being said, welcome to again our week 7, guys. We got a lot to do this upcoming week, and we're going to have a good time going over everything. So, again, this is the 2025 summer transforming business with artificial intelligence, and this is our section MSAI 599 B01 again for the summer of 2025. So, yes, so it looks as though everybody truly got off on a good foot last week and really persevered as we're now winding down here in our time together, guys. Everybody really jumped on the assignments in week 6 and literally just got them out of the way because you guys know the faster that you move, you can then proceed on to your next assignments, which is now for week 7. So again, great job, everyone. Everybody really worked well together to get everything done in a timely manner. And you know me, I always really do appreciate that, considering that last week we only had 2 assignments. So each one of you guys just really knocked them out of the way. And I'm hoping that maybe you had some free time from the past week 6, since we didn't do 3 assignments last week. So, and looking at your assignment, like I said, I looked at everybody's work, and all we had was just that discussion post in regard to understanding AI and credit, lending, and mortgage. And we'll talk about that shortly. And then we had the case study, and the case study was all about Allstate, good old Allstate Insurance. So it was pretty straightforward, guys, and that's going to be somewhat of a transition into week this week 7, because this week we're back to our teams again. So we got this week 7, and then next week is going to be the short week. So be mindful of that. So truly, in all actuality, all of our assignments for week 8 will be due on next Wednesday. So I'm just giving you a precursor. So I want you guys to be mindful of that. Again, next week, starting on Monday of next week, we got to have the assignments all submitted by 11:59 Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday and not Sunday. So that's going to be for next week. But this ensuing week, this week 7, all assignments, we know that the discussion post is always going to be, the initial post is always on that Friday by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then your case study will be due on Sunday at 11:59 EST, along with your 2 follow-up peer responses by 11:59 on Sunday. So all those assignments, guys, for this week. Also, we'll have to have the minimum of 3 in-text citations, as you guys already know. So, but for this week, we got going to have group projects again. So, and I'll go over that shortly. But just in the meantime, I want to go ahead and go over all the great things that we did last week, which was so bubbly, very bubbly last week. So it was a nice reprieve, so to speak, because we only had 2 assignments last week, guys. So I hope you felt bubbly, had a little time off, got your assignments done early, so that way you can just have fun, go out and spray some bubbles with your maybe nieces or nephews or even children, right? And that's always a good thing to do here in the summertime. So again, so welcome to our week 7, guys. So okay, so as a precursor, as I just mentioned, let's go ahead and go over all the wonderful things that we did last week, including for the week 6, those 2 assignments, right? So let's look at those before we jump into this now week 7, okay? So yes, in week 6 of last week, guys, I had mentioned to you in regard to the overview. I always give a overview of what we're going to expect as well as my deliverables. And last week, what I stated to you was that we're going to be exploring the impact of artificial intelligence, AI, and big data on the insurance industry. And that's why you guys did that case study on Allstate, right? So then I also stated that we're going to be discussing the roles of insurance in our lives and how it is used to manage potential losses. Good old insurance, right? I had mentioned all this last week. So and that's why I said your assignments, from what I'm seeing, guys, it looks great. So it should be some great points. Everybody get their 40 and 35 points respectively. A case study is worth 40, and we know that the actual discussion post is worth 35 points. So and it looks like everybody's putting all their in-text citations in to get all the points as we now wind down, getting closer and closer to week 8. So this is week 7, guys. So that light at the end of the tunnel is now approaching. So also last week in week 6, I stated that we're going to be examining how insurers collect and assess data to collect and calculate risks and determine premiums. And then I also said that we was going to delve into the ways in which big data and AI have actually revolutionized the insurance industry, making it more efficient and effective. Then I also stated that this was back in week 6, last week on my last lecture, guys. I had mentioned that we were going to be exploring the different AI technologies and tools that are being used in the respective insurance industries, right? And then we were going to look at examples to show how and why they are being implemented. And then finally, I mentioned that we was going to wrap up by discussing the challenges and future of using AI in insurance. Okay, and then I was looking for ways that you guys can provide suggestions for actions that should be taken and exploring the trends that are shaping the future of the insurance industry. So I mentioned all that last week. And then I stated that we was going to be focusing on the application of the actual AI and big data in the credit mortgage industries, right? So I mentioned about the credit as well as the mortgage industry. So we had 3 industries last week, guys, that we was all over. And like I said, you guys was all over it. We talked about insurance, and then we looked at the mortgage industry as well as credit industry. So those were the 3 primary industries that we was really permeating on in regard to last week. So you guys did a good dive into it. You got a good lay of the land. From what I seen your assignments, I did a small sample size as always before I got on here, guys, from all your assignments that I received at the dawn of midnight, almost 11:59 last night. So I always like to make sure I get all my checks and balances in before I get on here with you, because I really want to see if you guys really got a good solid understanding of the deliverables that I was expecting from you from the previous week, and you did. So again, kudos to you guys. So and then furthermore, I stated last week that we will look into those industries being credit and mortgage, and look to see how they're striving to become more competitive by improving their business operations through AI. Because I had mentioned all this last week in a lecture. I'm sure you guys remember. So last week was going to cover ways that AI can actually improve credit worthiness analysis, lending systems, scoring models, fraud detection, risk assessment, operational efficiency, performance prediction, consumer experience, and customer issue solving. So I had mentioned all those different categories that we're going to be looking at in this past week 6. And it looks like you guys did. You guys really nailed it. And then finally, I mentioned that we was going to be exploring AI applications in credit and mortgage industries and all the major AI technologies used in those respective fields, and delving into some case studies of related companies. So that was my overview. I'm sure you guys listened to that very well. And if you didn't really comprehend what I read out to you last week, it was out there on the content folder for our week 6 as usual. So by the end of last week, guys, I was really expecting my 10 deliverables. The first of 10 was making sure that you guys understood the use of AI and big data techniques in the insurance sector. My second of 10 was make sure that you guys actually did learn about different insurance technologies such as the chat box, natural language processing, robotics processing automation, computer vision, telematics, and predictive analysis. Thirdly, I wanted to make sure that you guys really did explore AI based insurance applications such as the claims processing, fraud detection, and personalized policies. Number 410 was analyzing case studies on Allstate, Liberty Mutual, State Farm, Progressive to understand the practical applications of AI in the actual insurance industry. So, number 5 of 10, the halfway point, number 5 was making sure that you actually understood the role of AI in credit and mortgage industry, right? Number 6 of 10 that I wanted to make sure as a deliverable that you guys actually could identify the different areas of industry where AI applications could in fact be used, right? Such as predictive analysis, customer service, credit scoring, and others. 7 of 10, I wanted to make sure, as far as one of my objectives slash deliverables, that you explore the various types of AI technology used in credit and mortgages, right? Such as that machine learning, natural language processing, and expert systems. And then 8 of 10, the last three, 8 of 10 was make sure that you guys actually did learn about uh, virtual agents. And it looks like you did because I saw a couple of my AI scientists actually elaborate on that. And I like that. Same thing with machine vision, speech processing, digital footprint analysis, and accounting automation, and how they are actually implemented in the insurance industries. You guys know that from what I saw. Now, I haven't graded none of the papers yet. I'm going to grade them this week, but it looks like you guys was over that from my small sample size that I took. And then number 9 was of my deliverables that I really wanted to make sure that you took away from week 6 was could you actually analyze case studies of lending platforms, including, you remember I mentioned that Upstart, Affirm, and Monito, right? And how they are used and how they are being used in AR tools to actually enhance their operations. And then my last deliverable from week 6 that I want you guys to make sure that you have in your hip pocket was that are you able to evaluate, guys? And this was crucial to me. Are you able to effectively evaluate the potential benefits, right? And challenges of implementing AI in credit and mortgages, right? And how it can actually impact the industry's overall future. So those were my 10 deliverables, guys. I just really want to make sure that you put those in your pocket and you nailed it because those deliverables are really huge as far as moving forward and as we now come to the towards the ending of our time together, especially going into the last week, week 8, because your final assignment will actually encompass everything that we talked about over the past 8 weeks. So this is why, as always, on my deliverables, those are always the key takeaways to make sure that you basically, the way I look at it, personalize everything. So that way you have it, you understand it, you actually comprehend it, right? And understand the foundation of that respective week. And it looks like to me, from the sample size that I saw, you guys truly did, in fact, nail that. So, again, kudos to you guys. So, and the good thing about those deliverables and that previous overview that I gave you, you had my lecture as a foundation. And I know that you took good notes to coincide with chapters 12 and 13 of Hogabaum, Chan, and Chow from our artificial intelligence in business concepts and cases, right? So that should have really bode well for those 12 and 13 chapters. And those chapters was all about our AI in insurance and then AI in credit, lending, and mortgages, as we talked about in our actual overview for the week. So those two chapters, 12 and 13 respectively, should have pretty much wrapped up everything along with the oral lecture that I gave you and those deliverables. So you really should have been good to go. Okay, so that wraps up my lecture 1 of 4 for this week 6. Excuse me, this week 7, and I'll be back for week 6 to wrap up the things that we did then. See you in a second.